My brothers and sisters in Christ, in today's gospel passage, we hear yet another trap laid for Jesus, or at least so they think, as we see Jesus never finds himself trapped as the one who stands in the fullness of truth. But the Sadducees, as people who don't believe in the resurrection, come up with what they think is an absurd example, a trap that will put Jesus in a corner regarding his teaching on heaven and resurrection. And so this whole model of the man with the multiple wives, and who will he be married to? You know, if someone has many spouses in their life, who is their spouse in heaven? This one, while seemingly ridiculous because it comes out of their idea, they pose it as ridiculous because to them there is no afterlife of any kind. But for us, this image and the response of Jesus about the fact that there will be no marriage in heaven is something that's puzzling to some readers of it, but in fact is a very important illustration of the heavenly reality. While much of life in heaven is mysterious to us, after all, we on earth have not experienced it, but we can understand one aspect of why this would be true of what Jesus says. For many people, especially if their marriage is central to their life, this may be hard to fathom. A heaven of joyful reality where they're not married to their spouse. But it's not so much a repudiation of marriage, but actually gives a glimpse of the nature of heaven itself. If we think of the ends of marriage, and marriage has two proper ends, that is the procreation of children and the unitive aspect, which is to unify and love two people, a complete outpouring of two people towards the benefit of the other. In fact, this unitive aspect, if we set aside the procreation of children, the unitive aspect speaks of the fact that we, who are sinful people, if we are created in the image and likeness of God, if we're created for love, if the image, and we've just celebrated the solemnity of the Most Holy Trinity this weekend, where we see the very nature of God as a perfect communion of love, this is actually the image in which we're created. Our perfection and our sin, we are not perfectly loving the way we should be. Either we fail to love or we turn our love inward, self-love, which is imperfect, as opposed to the complete outpouring of self for the good of other. And so marriage is the opportunity to be sanctified, to be perfected in love, to live completely for another. However, this reality is not needed in a heavenly reality. Why? Because to even achieve the state of heaven means one is perfected. And this is why we speak of purgatory. The purgation, if the soul is not completely prepared for the eternal vision of God, if it is not perfected in love at the time of death, then the purification goes on past the point of death. By the time one reaches heaven, despite caricatures of, marching across a cloud to the pearly gates and St. Peter looking at a scorecard or a guest book and going in, there's all kinds of caricatured images of heaven, but heaven is the beatific vision, the unfiltered sight of God for eternity, and it is for the saints, the holy ones, those who have been perfectly purified to their proper nature in the love of God. And so, in this reality of heaven, every single soul has a perfect communion with God and every other soul that's greater than the best marriage on earth right now. And so, what's happening with one particular coupling of people on earth is just a foretaste, is a training, a preparation for the heavenly reality in which we have perfect communion with every soul, a more intimate, passionate love with every person than we can have with any one person on earth right now. That is the reality of heaven, which is a beautiful image, a yearning that we should have. So for now, we take, regardless of our vocation, whether it's marriage, whether it's priesthood, whatever our vocation is, we are to be perfected to cooperate with God's grace each and every day, to grow in love, to learn to pour ourselves out more and more. And we get ready for the moment when we're called to heaven, to experience a love unfiltered like we've never known before. May God bless you all.